everyone. Welcome everybody to this meeting, to this month's meeting, the February meeting of the Certificate of Appropriateness Committee for the RHDC. My name is Hvac, and I am the chairwoman for this committee. I would like to, at this time, do a roll call as we do have a quorum based upon the committee members that are present. So I will start with Curtis Hvac.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, great. John Reese.
I'm here.
Great. And Sandy Feaster.
Hi, I'm here.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Let's see. Okay. That's good. I skipped some things, but it's okay. I'll circle back and we'll do roll call for the staff and after I get through some of the virtual meeting protocol. Okay. All right. I would like to start by acknowledging that we are conducting this meeting using a remote electronic platform. I would ask for your patience today as we proceed. There may be slight delays as we transition between speakers, participants, and presentations. The Certificate of Appropriateness Committee is a quasi-judicial body that is governed by the North Carolina General Statutes and the city's Unified Development Ordinance. We conduct evidentiary hearings on applications for certificates of appropriateness. Before we begin the evidentiary hearings on today's agenda, I would like to provide some important information about the steps taken to ensure that each party's due process rights are protected as we proceed in this remote platform. First, today's meeting will be conducted in accordance with the newly enacted statutes in Session Law 2020-3, which allow for remote meetings and quasi-judicial hearings during declarations of emergency. Second, each applicant on today's agenda was notified before being placed on the agenda that this meeting would be conducted using a remote electronic platform. Every applicant on today's agenda has consented to the committee conducting the evidentiary hearing on their request using this remote platform. We will also confirm today at the start of each evidentiary hearing that the participants in the evidentiary hearing consent to the matter of proceeding in this remote platform. If there is any objection to a matter proceeding in this remote platform, the case will be continued. Third, notice of this meeting was provided to the applicants and the public in numerous ways, well beyond the legal requirements for noticing this meeting and evidentiary hearings. Specifically, notice of today's evidentiary hearings was provided by mail to all property owners and tenants within 100 feet of each property. Each notice letter notified the recipient of the remote meeting platform. The letters also stated to contact the city immediately if there were any objections to the evidentiary hearing for which the notice was sent or to the remote meeting platform. No case is proceeding today in which the city has been contacted by an applicant, participant, or other individual with an objection to the case or the matter being heard in this remote platform. Notice was also provided by posting notice on the site of each property, publishing notice in the newspaper, and providing notice on the city's website. The notices for today's meeting contained information about the means by which the public can access and view the remote meeting as the meeting occurs. Fourth, any individual wishing to participate in today's evidentiary hearings was required to sign up prior to the meeting to participate. Information about the sign-up requirement, along with information about how to sign up to participate, was included in the mailed notice letter sent to each property owner within 100 feet of each subject property. This information was included on the RHDC city website, and among other information, a link to the website was included in all methods of notice. All individuals participating in today's evidentiary hearings were also required to submit a copy of any presentation, document, exhibit, or other material that they wish to submit at the evidentiary hearing prior to today's meeting. All materials that the city received from the participants in today's cases, as well as a copy of the staff reports and staff presentations, were posted online in board docs prior to this meeting. All materials that will be discussed today can be reviewed at any time during today's meeting by visiting raleighNC.gov/agendas and selecting RHDC Certificate of Appropriateness Committee. Finally, all individuals who signed up to participate in an evidentiary hearing on today's agenda, as well as city staff participants, were emailed a witness oath form prior to today's meeting. Any individual planning to testify or submit evidence in an evidentiary hearing was notified that they must sign and return the oath from the oath form prior to today's meeting. We will also reaffirm everyone's oath on the record at today's meeting. All right. Sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry, my husband is not home yet, so he'll be home to my son in a second. Okay, sorry guys. All right. Okay, so all of our commissioners are city appointed, city council appointed membership. In front of you, we've already done roll call, but in front of you, you have residents of the historic districts, architects, intern architects, architectural consultants and contractors, attorneys and historians, urban planners, and historic preservationists. So with that, I'll go around the room one more time. In this room, and you all can just give a kind of brief background about yourself. So I will start. I am Rashay Height, the chairwoman for the Certificate of Appropriateness Committee. I have been serving in this role for coming up on 2 years. This is my first term. And I am an architect and a resident of Raleigh, living in close to the downtown area. I will pass it to Curtis from here.
Hi there, Curtis Casefang. I spent 6 years on the commission 10 years ago, 4 of which I was chair, all 6 of which on the COA committee, and 10 years on DRAC for the commission. And now I'm back on and I'm in the first year of my term. In my other life, I'm an architectural consultant on the design of theaters and concert halls throughout the United States, Canada, and into Europe.
Great, thank you, Curtis. John Reese.
Hi, I'm John Reese. This is my second year on the commission. I am an architect and I live in the Glenwood, Brooklyn neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. Sandy Feaster.
Hi, Sandy Feaster. I have a master's in historic preservation. I'm finishing, will wrap up my first year on the committee, and I live in Raleigh.
Okay, thank you all. And then I want to take a moment to give Raz, our resident attorney, an opportunity to introduce himself as well.
Yes, I'm Francis Raspberry. I'm a lawyer with a Raleigh law firm, and I'm legal counsel to the Certificate of Appropriateness Committee.
Thank you, Raz. Okay, and with that, we also, you all our applicants are probably more familiar with our staff at this point, as you've been working with them to get up to this point in your application. So with that, I'll just do roll call. So Tanya Tully, Senior Preservation Planner, are you present?
Yes, I am.
Great. Colette Canane, Preservation Planner.
Hello, I'm here.
Great. Erin Morton, Preservation Planner.
Good evening.
Nicole Toms, recorder of the minutes, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay. And JP Mansell, the moderator. Or is that John for us today? No. Was I here? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great, thank you. All right. With that, let's see. Okay, so prior to this meeting, each of the commissioners have received the minutes from our last Certificate of Appropriateness meeting held in January. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion to waive the reading of those minutes. Okay, that's
Second.
and seconded by Curtis. Moved by John, seconded by Curtis. Are there any corrections or additions that anyone on the commission would like to make to those minutes at this time? No? Okay, all right. So with that, if I could get a motion to adopt the minutes from the January meeting. John, motion by John, second by Curtis. All in favor?
Aye.
And that is John, Curtis, Sandy, and myself. And so those minutes will move forward as approved. Okay. In addition to the evidentiary hearings we have today, over the past month, the staff has been working with other applicants on minor work applications. Aaron, Tanya, Colette, could you let us know how many minor work applications were completed and approved by you all last month?
This is Erin. We approved 4 minor work applications this month.
Okay, great. All right, that's great. And thank you all for the work on that. We really appreciate it. Okay, now we are ready, I think, to hear tonight's applications. In addition to the above, commission members have received a copy of each application, staff reports, and were to have visited each property. Staff reports were made publicly available with the agenda. All right, so with that, we'll just go ahead and move right into our evidentiary hearings. Okay, a little bit about that first. Evidentiary hearings are conducted in a quasi-judicial format. During the hearing, we receive evidence to determine that the proposed changes are not incongruous with the special character of the historic district or the historic property. We review this evidence in light of the design guidelines referenced in the city ordinance. Each application is heard the same way. The quasi-format of the hearing requires that we be impartial. The written staff reports are evidence presented, just as any other evidence, and were made available to us, the applicants, and the public at the same time. If any of us have had any reason to discuss the specific details of an application before today, we will ask to be excused from hearing that application. There is no time limit to testimony, but repetition is strongly discouraged. Okay. Because of the quasi-judicial format of our hearings, we are required by North Carolina law to affirm or swear in persons that speak before the commission and offer evidence. Although oath and affirmation forms have been signed previously, all speakers will be sworn in or affirmed at the beginning of each case. Staff will be sworn in or affirmed now for all cases on the agenda. All right, so I will start with Colette Caname. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give on the matters on today's agenda is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
This is Colette. I do.
Okay, great. Thank you. Affirm that the testimony you are about matters on today's agenda is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
This is Erin. I do.
I notes you all are the only two that are be speaking on today with reference to staff notes. That's correct, right? I don't need to swear anybody else in.
That is correct. Tanya Tully here, though. Just wanted to make sure, I wasn't sure how you wanted to handle the applications that have requested deferral. I don't know if we wanted to state that up front.
Curtis, do you have something? Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adjust the agenda for the deferred applications. Our understanding is that COA 0008-2022 410 Morrison Street, COA 009 2022 816 Brooklyn, COA 0010 2022 812 Brooklyn Street, and COA 0011 2022 810 Brooklyn Street wish to be deferred. So I'd to move that we strike them from the agenda and I guess we need to stop there and have that accepted.
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Right, and that's seconded both by John and Sandy. All those in favor of the modifications to tonight's agenda, please say aye or raise your hand. Okay, and that is Porch, Curtis, John, and Sandy, all in agreement. So the agenda will be modified. In those cases, as noted by Curtis, will be deferred.
And based on that, I'd like to move to approve the agenda.
Okay, there's a second. Is there a second to approve the new agenda? Sandy? All right, all those in favor of approving the new agenda, please raise your hand. All right, and that's Porch, Curtis, John, and Sandy. So the new agenda has been approved. Tanya, are we covered on that front now?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so with that, we will start with our first case. Okay, COA-0170-2021, 521 Elm Street. Before getting the staff presentation, I'd like to take a moment to swear in our representative speakers for this case. Let's start with the applicant and our primary speaker, which I understand is Lisa Finaldi. Is that right?
Lisa is unmuted. I'm here.
Okay. Lisa, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give on today's agenda is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and then do you confirm an assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures?
I do.
Okay, great, thank you.
And also, I'll just note that my husband will be Brian Starkey. He will be the primary speaker.
Okay. Your husband is on the speaker list, is that correct?
Yes.
Right. Is that Mr. Brian Starkey?
Yes.
Okay, we'll swear him in next. Brian, do you confirm an assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures?
I do.
Okay, great. And then do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And I'm a little bit out of order on this, but for the record, could you and your wife both state your names and your addresses for the record?
Lisa, you want to go first?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you, Brian, but I am Lisa Finaldi. My address is 701 Northeast Street in Raleigh, 27604.
And Brian Starkey, also 701 Northeast Street, 27604. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we'll go to Sam Slater. Mr. Slater, could you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, I was just unmuted. My name is Sam Slater. I'm the attorney for the applicant. My address is 4101 Lake Boone Trail, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27607.
Okay, great, thank you. And do you confirm an assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Okay, and lastly, Mr. Andrew Litigious. I'm not sure if I said your last name correctly. Could you state your name and your address for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Andrew Iatridis. I'm the architect for the applicant. Address is 6037 Sentinel Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27609.
Okay, great. And do you confirm an assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures?
I do.
Okay. And do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, great. And as you all have an attorney present on your team, I want to give Raz a moment to state and give anything that he needs to at this time.
No, no comment or would be necessary at this point, Ms. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, at this point, I'd like to call on, I believe, Colette to make a presentation summarizing the key issues for this case.
For Chair, I'd just like to mention again, when we heard the case last time, I noted that I live within 100 feet of this property, but I don't believe I'd be biased in making a decision. I'm also friends with the applicant, but again, we have not discussed any details of this case. And I don't believe I'd be biased in making any decision.
Is the remainder of the commission comfortable with Curtis remaining on this case? It's a yes from John. Sandy? Yes. And that's fine with me as well. So you'll remain. Okay, Colette, it's all yours.
Hello, everyone. This is Colette. This is case COA 170, 2021 for 521 Elm Street in the Oakwood Historic District. You previously heard this last month and requested additional information, so I'll just quickly review the application request and the photographs. It is to construct a new primary residence, install a driveway, front walk, and construct an accessory structure. And we'll just go quickly through these photos. Next slide. This is a view of the current structure on the property. It was previously approved to be demolished. Next slide. This is a view from south of the parcel looking north. Next slide. A view of the existing south side of the structure. Next slide. And the existing rear. Next slide. And this is an existing shed that was also approved to be demolished previously. Next slide. Next slide. So you previously heard this application and suggested additional information to be provided. Based on the previous discussion and the previous information provided, staff's concerns remain the lack of construction and material details, the lack of evidence supporting height, window fenestration, and built mass area calculations for the subject property and well-related nearby properties. However, next slide. The applicant did provide additional information in response to the previous meeting that is not reflected in staff concerns or the staff report, and that is a written response to the previous meeting comments, a building height and massing comparison diagram, built mass and area calculations and diagram, and updated elevation and perspective drawings. So I think you should begin with Mr. Slater, since the property is owned by an LLC and he can defer to the applicants as needed.
Okay, thank you for that, Colette. Mr. Slater, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Again, my name is Sam Slater. I'm an attorney with Hvac Robbins here in Raleigh, representing the property owner. The property's in an LLC, and so that's really the only reason for my involvement. Lisa and Brian have prepared additional information, as Colette just mentioned, that they'll go over, but you'll recall the discussion of this COA last month, the request for additional information, and they have looked into it and provided that. So I know Brian is going to get into more detail on that, so I'll turn it over to Brian for that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Slater. Okay, Mr. Starkey.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Based on the meeting last time and information that we got from staff, there were 10 items to address and then some suggested conditions. And I'm just going to quickly go through those. The topographic details of the site was a concern for staff. The site is gently sloping from the back of the property to the front with a difference of about 4 feet from the southwest corner to the northeast corner. It's anticipated that the slope of the backyard will be graded to be flatter than the current condition. However, the front yard needs to remain at existing grade, primarily because of the large oak tree at the northeast corner, trying very hard to not disturb the grade around that. So while we have not developed a exacting grading plan at this point, we do anticipate to grade a little bit flatter in the back, but leaving the front with regard to the tree. Number 2 was built mass percentages and height. We included a massing and composition diagram showing 2-story well-related contributing nearby houses. There was also one left on there that is more recently constructed, but it's also 2 stories and within the radius circle that was provided by staff. All those houses are within the radius diagram, and the average height of the contributing houses is 28.5 feet. The proposed house at 521 Elm Street, based on some revisions, is now 27 feet. So we brought the height down a little bit. Revised elevations show a new roof height, materials, and window alignment, which are also discussion points from last meeting. The built mass area calculation map shows several homes and identifies lot coverage. Houses cited, again, are all within the radius provided by RHDC staff. And the RHDC staff radius map was provided in our materials for your reviewing. But clearly we are well within the coverage on the lot that's less than most of those exhibited in that diagram. The third item was a screened-in porch, and the screens, there was a question about the posts and rails, and the screens will be internal to the posts and rails. This is noted on the revised elevations. Also, there was a previous comment with regard to exterior metal materials on the exterior of the porch, and we have removed those from the design. I think the overall question was, or the overall concern was just the number of different materials on the house. And so that metal accent on the exterior porch walls has been removed. Number 4 was material and construction specifications. Of the outstanding specifications that are requested, all will be submitted for staff approval prior to construction. The Commission's recommendations that exterior metal roofs, columns, and the chimney feature be the same color and be addressed in the final specifications, and we are in agreement with that. Don't see any difficulty there in matching the colors for those various items. The accessory structure was number 5, outstanding material specifications for the shed. We will provide those prior to construction. Window specification and details was number 6. Window specification and trim details will also be provided prior to the issuance of the blue placard. Also, prior to the issuance of the blue placard was number 7, exterior door specifications. We just simply haven't picked the doors yet, but that will also be provided prior to the issuance of the blue placard. We are in agreement that with number 8, that 2 replacement trees will be part of the future landscape plan. However, we don't have that landscape plan yet. The landscape plan will be submitted prior to construction. Number 10 was HVAC fence screening details. And again, that information will be provided once the system is determined and the units are located. We're not really sure exactly where those will be on site at the moment. And that was the 10 concerns that were listed by staff. There was also some suggested conditions, and we are in agreement with the suggested conditions as identified by staff and as required for the issuance of the blue placard and or approval for construction. So I believe we've addressed the comments, hopefully to your satisfaction, and hopefully we're positioned for approval this evening. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have. Architect obviously is here as well, and so is Lisa. So between the 3 of us, I hope we can answer any questions you have.
Thank you for that, Mr. Starkey. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else from your applicant team that has anything they want to offer before I open it up to the committee for questions for you all?
This is Lisa. I just wanted to note that we had on our last application that the accessory dwelling would be on piers due to the tree in that corner, and they hadn't been noted on the elevations, but we still plan to do that.
Thank you for that. Is there anything else from the applicant team?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. With that, I will take questions for the applicant team from the commission. John Reese?
Just one small minor clarification. You said accessory dwelling?
Oh, sorry, I meant the shed.
Thank you.
Accessory structure. My terminology was
There,
off.
there will be no one living in that building,
No.
except when she gets mad at me and I have to go out there.
All right, well, thank you for that clarification. Are there any other questions from the committee for the applicant on this case? Okay, I am not seeing any. Is there any, well, I have a list of those who have to speak, but I think I have to ask anyway if there's anyone that is on this call that's opposed to any of that wants to speak in opposition to this application. Okay, great. With that, I will close the public hearing and turn to internal discussion amongst the commission. John?
Yeah, I am very satisfied with the responses. I think that they are responsible responses, and I'm glad to see that they have brought the height down some, and I'm very happy with the location of the other precedents that are there because they are contributing structures. I think they have addressed all the issues in terms of what pieces are missing according to staff's list. I have no problem with this application now. Thank you.
Okay, Curtis?
Yeah, I just wanted to note one thing that wasn't covered in the checklist of staff concerns was the window configuration. And in our earlier conversation, I just want to note for the record that our conversation, we found that the spacing, placement, scale, orientation, and proportion of the windows was congruous with the well-related nearby properties. So I think we found that there's no incongruity there. And otherwise, yeah, I think we're at a point where we've got a congruous proposal.
Okay, thank you, Curtis.
Sure.
Any additional comments from the commission? Sandy, did you have any comments?
No, I have no comments.
Okay. And I don't have any either. And so I think we are ready to make a motion.
I'm willing to give it a shot.
Okay, please go.
In our brave new world, with no findings of fact, explicitly listed. I move that based on the evidence presented during the public hearing and the application and in staff comments, that we approve the application subject to the following conditions. One, that 2 replacement trees be planted, noting that this is an outstanding requirement from the earlier COA application 177-2020. That the following be provided and approved to and approved by staff prior to the issuance of the blue placard, even soffit detail drawings, window specifications and trim details, front step railings and column details showing both elevation, section view, manufacturer specifications for the front and rear doors, including the section. 3, detailed drawings and or specifications to be provided to and approved by staff prior to installation or construction. Replacement tree species and location, roof covering specifications and color, brick specifications, sample for color, size, and bond pattern, paint and stain color swatches from the paint manufacturer, HVAC unit location and screening, exterior lighting, including location on the building, if any, driveway and front walk finish, refuse area details and screening, if any, shed details and specifications that have not been currently detailed, such as any kind of doors or windows. I believe we already have siding and roofing. Landscaping plan, house numbers, electrical panel location, mailbox location, and all other exterior elements not included in the application, finished specifications for the gutters and downspouts, and retaining wall height details and specifications. It's a mouthful.
Okay.
Second.
All right, and that's seconded by Sandy. All those in favor? Okay, that's myself, Curtis, John, and Sandy. And so that is. Sorry, I'm very confused by this. Okay, so we'll adopt that. Are there any conditions?
We just had those nailed.
Okay.
I think we're good to go.
All right. So can we need another motion?
Nope.
No. Okay, so there's only, yes, Raz.
Actually, I think all of the conditions were articulated in Curtis's motion. At least I was going down the list and I think I heard every single one of them.
Okay.
Conditions 1 through 3 in the staff report.
Okay. Okay, great. So I believe then that means we have already approved. Yes. Okay. So this application, COA 01 -0170 -2021 521 West Elm Street has been approved. I'd like to thank the applicant for working with our committee to make this a success. Thank you very much for the changes and the modifications you've made to your application. And we wish you the best of luck with the building of your home moving forward.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to application COA-0001-2022, 1414 Glenwood Avenue. And in addition to Colette from staff that will be presenting on this application, from the applicant team, we have, looks like we've got 3 speakers. So Mr. Josh Davis, are you present?
Here. Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Great. Hello.
Yes, you will.
Okay. And do you confirm and assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, could you state your name and address for the record as well?
I'm sorry. Yeah, this is Josh Davis, 1414 Glenwood Avenue, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27605.
Thank you. And do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Great. Thank you so much. Mr. Rick Parker, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Could you state your name and address for the record?
Richard Parker, 200 West Whitaker Mill Road, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27608.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Do you confirm and assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures?
I do.
Okay. And do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Ms. Jennifer Davis?
Yes, I'm here.
Could you state your name and address for the record?
Jennifer Davis, 1414 Glenwood Avenue, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27605.
Thank you. And do you confirm and assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures? Do you confirm and assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures?
Yes.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, great. All right, that completes the list of speakers for this particular case. With that, I will turn it over to Colette.
Now I figured out what I needed to do so that you didn't get it.
All right, as you just mentioned, this is case 1/2022 for 1414 Glenwood Avenue, which is in the Glenwood, Brooklyn Historic District. The request is to enclose front porch, remove porch columns, and relocate the front door. Next slide. This is a view of the property from Glenwood Avenue. Next slide. This is a little further to the north on Glenwood, looking south towards the porch, which you can barely see there through the trees. Next slide. And this is a view from the front yard on the south side, looking somewhat north. Next slide. This is a view from the front walk, looking straight on at the existing porch. Next slide. And a better view of the existing porch from the front step. Next slide. This is from the north side of the property looking back towards Glenwood through the existing front porch. Next slide. And this is a view from the north side, again, giving you a better look at the existing front door. Next slide. So the staff concerns are the lack of evidence proving congruity of the proposed alteration, a few drawing discrepancies, and a lack of material and construction details. The applicant did provide new information, next slide, and that is a revised drawing and proposal and a copy of the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. And I recommend that you start with Mr. Davis first, and he can defer to their designer, Mr. Parker.
Sure. And Rick, feel free to jump in here and interrupt and add color as necessary. So this is Josh Davis speaking. Essentially, we're doing a multi-stage, I guess, a renovation of our home that includes what we're hoping to be an enclosure of the front porch, wherein after some consult with other architects, in addition to obviously the team that we put together for this renovation, we've had a revised proposal, and we haven't shown that yet, so I'm assuming we will. Maybe that'll be a part of Rick's presentation. But essentially, we have taken in consideration some of the concerns raised, or really the regulations that are out there around both enclosure of a porch as well as relocation of a front door. And so, Rick, maybe this is the time that you jump in and sort of speak to what we're doing.
This is Rick Parker. I'm a general contractor. And after reviewing the rules that are set by the historical committee, I did some research and found the Secretary of Interior's specifications for historic preservation projects. And there's a section on page 55 that talks about changing the use of a porch, and doing so by using large sheets of glass and recessing the enclosure behind the existing scroll work, post, and balustrades. And also what we would need to do on this would be to replace the existing stucco after we repair the damage that is behind where the stucco was leaking. And also you can see in the pictures, the posts were not in the best condition, so we have to replace some of those with light materials. We can replicate the scroll work, the trim work around the columns to match the existing columns. So that part will look exactly the same once it is finished.
And Rick, is there any chance we can show this? Or Colette, do you have what we submitted?
Hey, Josh, wait 1 second and Tanya will pull it up.
Okay, great. So we've been in this home, April will be 25 years. So we care a lot about how this home looks. We intend to stay here for many more years. And so we certainly have intention of keeping and preserving what we've enjoyed over the last 25 years. So yeah, thanks for bringing this up. Rick, maybe you want to speak to it though, because it's in line with what you were just talking about relative to that restoration guidance.
Right, on the floor plan drawing, what we planned on doing was coming even with the existing exterior walls, which would put it behind the columns and enclose it with a glass enclosure as recommended by the preservation guidelines. And therefore being able to use that space as, you know, a area that they can enjoy. So throughout the year.
Are there any other comments that the applicant team would like to make before you take questions from the commission on your application? Anything else you want to add?
None from me.
Okay. Anyone else on the applicant team? Good.
I'm fine.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll take questions from the commission for the applicant. John?
It's a question of the contractor, I think, from just a understanding point of view. I appreciate very much that you went through all that trouble to look at National Historic Standards. What we are governed by are the bylaws in the design guidelines for the Raleigh Historic Districts and Landmarks Commission. And 2.8.1 in that guideline basically says to retain and preserve entrances, porches, and balconies that contribute to the overall historic character of the building, including such functional and decorative elements as columns, pilasters, piers, entablatures, balustrades, sidelights, fanlights, transoms, steps, railings, floors, and ceilings. In the National Historic Standards that you're referencing, those are generic across the board in a lot of regards. And then we are considered more on the local level, which has more nuance, the same way that codes would be more nuanced in a local condition versus being a national standard. Unfortunately, we are governed by that local issue, and porches are important to the character of our neighborhood. And so I just wanted to clarify, did you have a chance to go through the guidelines that the city of Raleigh produces versus just using the national standard?
I did not. I will do that. So.
Yeah, I think that will completely change your understanding of what is appropriate versus what is generic and what is specific to this neighborhood. I think that will help immensely.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? Curtis?
Okay, looking at the drawings, my understanding from what is it, drawing P1, the revised version, is that the glass enclosure is set back just a bit from the face of the historic house, which is a good thing, and back from the columns, which is also a good thing. From this drawing, it appears that you're using an enormous glass surround without any apparent joints or details, and I'm finding that a little hard to imagine how one would construct that in this situation. I assume that you'll be detailing these areas more to get further information in terms of the joints between the window panes, how the doors supported, all of that. Yes?
Yes, we can do that. I'll have get an estimate and get detailed drawings.
And is your intention to break up the glass into sort of smaller segments, essentially? Yes. Okay, with mullions and things. And the From the text, I believe I walked away with the understanding that the existing front door was going to be relocated to what we're seeing in the camera 1 elevation or elevation 1. And I assume the existing door we're referring to is the French door we see on one of the photographs looking through the porch.
Actually, that door will stay where it is,
Okay.
and a new glass door that will not take away from the historic look of the house.
Okay.
So, in other words, we're gonna hide that new front door, that new entrance.
Okay.
That'll be hidden in the glass wall, so it's not noticeable. Doesn't stand out as much.
Okay. Cool. Let me just take another peek somewhere else. One of the things I would ask you to be careful to document when you do that is just how the glass is engaging the historic structure, including the floor and the ceiling, because that offers shadow lines and things of that sort.
Yes.
And that's it for me at the moment.
Okay, are there any other questions from the commission for the applicant? John?
I'd like to ask the owners, you guys have lived here 20 years. Did you do the modifications that we see today?
Well, I mean, let me, Jen, you can speak through my same speaker. And Jen and I are right next to each other and we're kind of making sure we can. Okay, so yeah, we've been there 25 years this April. We did do a fairly substantial renovation to the back side of the house and increase the space up on the second floor in 2000 what?
Like 2001.
2001 maybe. Okay. And so so that work was done. But anything that you see in the front of the house, to my knowledge, has been there since it was constructed in 1927.
We haven't done anything with the front.
I can guarantee you that the existing condition of the front is not an original condition.
That was something that we did because there was some damage behind that stucco.
Oh,
see it from the bottom.
The original, the current condition. Okay.
And so we're going to replace that stucco with a light stucco. In other words, that'll go back to the original character of the house.
Well, what I wanted to stress and point out was that I don't think, I may be wrong, but that the original configuration of that stucco or even the stucco itself is not original to the house.
You mean the anywhere? I mean, so Rick took off a good portion of the stucco relative to the work. But if I don't know if you want to pull the pictures back up, but if you look at any of the other stucco that you see in any of the pictures of the front of the house, you're saying that was not done in 1927.
Well, here's my question. Is there stucco behind stucco, or is there stucco and a layer and a protection thing, and then there's wood or structure behind that?
No, to my knowledge, it's stucco and then the lathe board. I mean, just and that's evidenced by what Rick pulled off.
It was stucco and tar paper, and then the diagonal sheeting
lathe boards, right, with plaster.
You didn't, and you didn't, and this is for the contractor. You didn't find any evidence that there was masonry at some point in time on this?
There was no masonry. That must have been the original finish on the house.
Interesting.
Because it didn't look like it had ever been redone before. In other words, it was a 3-coat stucco. The stuff was about 1.25 inches thick. So it was.
I'm very confused by that. I'll be honest, because I don't know of any case I've ever seen where stucco would put over wood.
Excuse me?
I've never seen a situation where stucco would be put over wood
It was
as a substrate.
It was put over the sheathing. There was chicken wire for the lath. It was kind of difficult.
Right.
And then
Right. I would understand that, but that's an interior. That's an interior practice. On an exterior stucco, it's done over masonry.
no, I can show you houses in the neighborhood that are stucco that originally were stucco. My sister
Over wood. Over wood.
Yeah.
Over wood. Over wood.
Dare Street,
Okay.
where Dare runs into Roanoke Park. My sister-in-law, that was her house, and it was a stucco on top of wood sheeting.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
This is a practice of architecture, not the rule of architecture.
Yeah, no problem. So, we run into all kinds of stuff. So, yeah.
I just can't imagine it holding up for any length of time from a durability standpoint, and I guess it hasn't.
Well, one of the issues we ran into was there was leakage.
Yeah. And the reason again why I say this is that the arch, the way it is designed is, I got to tell you, it's an 80s. It's got a very strong 80s postmodern kind of flick to it.
Give the guys. I think the guy came out of, it was like an Arizona design or something.
California.
Some sort of California design.
That makes sense from Adobe. He comes from Adobe architecture, and so it's very not Craftsman in its style. And so I'm just wondering, when was the house? The house is built in 1921 or whatever.
It was built in 27. It had, I think, we're the 5th owners. And the guy I bought it from, Dale Midkiff, who bought it from a guy, or bought it from an old lady who died in the house, actually. He showed me pictures, and we can go back to the archives. I think we've got archive pictures in the North.
Oh, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. That would be interesting, because I have always assumed that, because I live in the neighborhood, as you know, I have always driven by that, and I said, this is the most insensitive renovation to a possibly Victorian or colonial or a Craftsman style house I thought it was a redo. I must say, I'm sorry. I think that way. It's just the way it hit.
I'm sorry you do too, because this is one reason why I fell in love in the house and bought it. But anyway,
I'd like to just take a moment to refocus the conversation.
Sure. I just wanted to understand where it came from, if it was original or not, and if you have images from the archives. Gosh, I would love to see those, because I'm shocked that this was a design style that was chosen.
Okay.
I'll shut up.
Thank you for that, John. Curtis, do you have a question for the applicant?
Really disappointing.
Muted.
Interestingly, there is a very similar house in terms of the anachronistic design on Boundary Street in Oakwood. That's also from a similar period. Somebody was wandering around Raleigh doing some interesting work, which is cool.
Any questions for the applicant? Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. All right. With that, I don't have anyone listed that is here to speak in opposition of this application. So with that, I will close the public hearing and turn to internal discussion amongst the commission. Curtis?
I think in concept, the proposal to enclose the porch area in glass, given that it's set back from both rows of columns and from the surface, with a visually transparent enclosure. I think in concept, I think that's heading in the right direction to achieve this, to make it approvable. And by finding it congruous with or not incongruous with this well-related nearby properties, and the character of the district. That said, the devil's in the details on this, and I would love to see a lot more about what those glass walls look like and the proposed replacement door before we go and issue a COA. Even if it's just a, not a deep dive into details, but a conceptualization of what the fenestration of that entire new surface looks like and reads like, because it could go well or it could go bad. That's my thought at this point on it.
Okay, thank you for that. John?
I'm tying given if it is in fact designed that this place is original to 1921, I have a hard time enclosing that porch, because this is if what I understand so far is true, this is a very unique design for this neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And I do not support modifying it, especially at the street level face at the porch, at the front porch, because it drastically changes its character to the point to where I think that it will read differently than if in a different time frame. It will not be it will not be timeless in that regard, and it will take over more imagery of the house than the house itself, in my opinion. Does that make sense? It's going to overpower the house.
Understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
John, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was having a hard time reading the stucco. And so enclosing was okay with more details, like Curtis mentioned. But if it is original and there's, evidence of that, it would be nice to have that, to remain.
My thought is that if the mullions of the enclosure, it's a finesse thing. If the mullions of the enclosure echo the columns, and around the door echo the door, and remain pretty minimal to reinforce, so it's a very transparent enclosure. And if the finished details on the interior echo the exterior strongly, that the net result would indeed read that there was a change, that something non-historic happened on the front of the house, but that it wouldn't change the character. But those are big ifs, hence wanting more details, honestly.
Thank you, Curtis. That's exactly what we're going for. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I do want to remind the applicant that the public hearing right now is closed. John?
Curtis, I can possibly buy into that answer, but the level of detail and the details that would be required in my mind to make this work would be so European in character that I don't think it would be cost effective for the owner to do, because I would push this towards glass mullions to separate the glass so that there are no storefront, there's no wood, this has to be museum box detailed. And that is not what I'm seeing in this application. This is a very different design aesthetic that encloses the porch, but it is not, in my opinion, congruous with the porch.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I'm hearing, based on the conversation that's being had here, is that, as far as the congruity of the design, there may be a couple different opinions on that. However, the common denominator is that there is not enough here, even with the new information in the application, for us to make a decision on this evening. The staff concerns about the evidence not being present, discrepancies between what is in the application, missing photographs and things like that. Also, the lack of window specifications, none of that is clear at this point. And I think that's what we are trying to infer through this conversation, which we can't because we don't have any evidence of a direction for that. Also, the applicant has not, while referencing the Secretary of Interior's guidelines, they have not referenced our governing guidelines for the RHDC, which certainly should be done as well. So all of that said, I don't think that we are in a position to potentially approve this application. But with that, is there a motion one way or another? John?
I would like to make a motion that we defer this application until the applicant has the opportunity to present more detailed information. In addition to that, I would request that the applicant bring forward these images that they have from the archives of this place in 1921. I would like to see where we are trying to hit in the original rather than trying to make that guess.
I will second the motion for deferral.
Okay. All those in favor that this application be deferred? Okay, and that is me, Curtis, John, and Sandy. Now, Raz, I don't know if we need any kind of follow-up. There was a number of things that came out of the conversation that I think, in addition to staff concerns, it sounds like we might like to see. Do we need to state any of those for the record, or are we deferred and we move on from there?
Rashay, I think the action speaks for itself, together with the comments that preceded the motion. I think, at least in my view, you've given sufficient instructions of where the committee's concerns are. So I think the action's been taken, and that's perfectly sufficient.
Okay, so just to summarize, application COA -1-2022 has been deferred. We thank you all for the effort in submitting, the applicant team, thank you all for the effort in submitting this application and trying to provide some additional information prior to the hearing tonight. We do look forward to continuing to work with you on this project, and certainly hope that we'll see a more detailed application from you that addresses some of our concerns in the next go round. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. With that said, we will now move on to application COA-14-2022, 521 Northeast Street. And in addition to Aaron from staff who will be presenting on this case, we have one more speaker. I will warn you already, I will probably butcher your name. Aaron, or Aaron Rittershaus. Are you with us this evening?
Pretty good. It's Aaron Rittershaus.
Okay, just unique spelling. Got it. Sounds great. Okay, could you state your name again and your address for the record, please?
Rittershaus, 521 Northeast Street in Raleigh, North Carolina, 27604.
Great, thank you. And do you confirm an assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures? Mr. Rittershaus, do you confirm an assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures? I think we lost you. Did we lose Mr. Rittershaus?
He is unmuted. It sounded like his microphone was a little spotty or his audio was spotty. Showing a little bit of audio coming through here and there.
All right, let's try that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you some now. Do you confirm an assent to this remote meeting and the special procedures?
I do.
Okay. And do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. All right. With that, we'll turn it over to Aaron.
Evening committee. And to the applicant, I've seen many spellings of Aaron in my day. That was a new one for me as well, for Shay. All right, this is case COA 14-2022 for 521 Northeast Street in the Oakwood Historic District. The request is to remove the existing asphalt shingle roof and install new solar tile roofing. Next slide. This is an image of 521 Northeast Street from Northeast Street slightly to the south of the house. Next slide. And an image looking straight on at the front street facing facade of the house. Next slide. And a view from the north side of the house looking toward the back of the lot. Next slide. And a view from further up the street. It's located on a hill, so this is moving towards the south, toward downtown. Next slide. Staff concerns are whether the solar tile roofing will be prominently visible from the street and the assessment of a physical roofing product for overall visual impact from the street, or I suppose the lack thereof. Next slide. And that's all. I'm here for any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Erin. At this time, I'd like to see if Mr. Rittershouse has any comments in defense of his application.
Sure. Really, the only thing I think on the staff comments, it had mentioned something about some electrical panels or something on the south side of the house. I've been told by the Tesla folks that everything is, all the electrical boxes will be in the basement, so there won't be anything visible on the outside as far as, on the side of the house, as far as electrical boxes or panels go.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Are there any questions from the committee for Mr. Rittershouse? Curtis? So you're here first.
Clearly we need to somehow electrically connect the roof to the battery array and the rest of the system that connects into the grid or doesn't connect into the grid. Is the intent to run wire conduit servicing the array on the exterior of the house or interior of the house? Are you coming up through the interior of the house?
I think the conduit there'll be one coming down on the north side of the house, and then that'll go through into the basement, penetrate the wall there.
Okay. And the big question for me is, are there any installations of these tiles in Wake County that we could actually go and see?
I've asked the Tesla representatives for some addresses, and they have not been forthcoming with those.
That would make this a lot easier.
I agree. I've let them know that.
Okay.
So I'd tried to provide as many pictures as I could in the application.
Okay, John, question?
I have some technical questions about this roof. What's the lifespan on it?
I can't remember if it's 20 or 30 years, but it's in that range.
And I guess that when you replace it with a same to same, and you're buying a whole new system again?
I don't know what's going to be available in 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, right. No, I get that. I think I have less problem about the visual impact of this roof, given the fact that it's such a low slope and you're in kind of tighter confines, than I am about questioning its viability. And when you said there were no other examples of this somewhere, I'm wondering, is there a reason for that? And I keep thinking that while actual solar panels may be more problematic for me than this because there's no change in plane, no change in material. I think I am kind of from off topic and completely out of order. I think you need to think about or get some of those questions answered on a technical standpoint, because this is going to be, this is a major project. I mean, this is a major expense.
Yes, it certainly is.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay.
Just 1 second. I just pulled up the specs. It says tile and power warranty is 25 years.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Sure.
For the applicant. Are there other dimensions for the individual panels? I believe I saw 15 by 45 in one of the documents. I just wanted to know if it came in any different configuration.
I don't think so. I think it's just I've only seen that one dimension on the materials they provided.
Thank you.
All right. If there, oh, Curtis.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think and one other which might help with our conversation. Actually, no, it's answered in the materials. I take it back.
And I can just back to one of the questions that was asked as far as why there aren't any others in Wake County installations. It was only, I think about a year ago, they opened the wait list in this area. And so I was I think I was one of the first people to get on it. And it's taken that long to get through. Then they put it on, they put a hold on I think they had problems with, getting materials. So I think I think there'll be more, but I think it's sort of at the front end in this area. I think there are, more, installations in California and other places.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you for finding that additional information for us on the fly. With that, I will close the public hearing and turn to internal discussion amongst the committee. Curtis?
Seem to always want to start off. This has been a very interesting question in looking at this for me. I think the thing that's very, very interesting about these panels is that the front thickness they're going to present is less than 1/4 inch. So kind of in line with a shingle, as in shake or slate roof, which is consistent with the roofing material in the neighborhood. And I also think that where this is addressed in the guidelines is 2.10.12, where it talks about solar collectors. But I think what we're looking at here has about as much in common with what was contemplated when that was written as, well, I think the solar collector that was contemplated at the time is more in common with a skylight than with what we're looking at here. I think this material, for the purposes of the discussion, should probably be talked about in terms of a roof sheathing material, a novel material, okay? I guess my big question is reflectivity on that. The exposure, it looks like the tiles essentially are going to read not unlike a slate shake that's perhaps a bit elongated. The reflectivity, I was driving around the last few days around sunset, different times of day, trying to get a sense of the reflectivity we see on other materials in the district, such as the metal roofing or slate. And those materials at an oblique angle, like most materials, are pretty reflective. The texture we see in the submitted material suggests that the finish that it faces is indeed relatively articulated. So it's not a dead smooth finish. So it's not going to read necessarily like a mirror. And I'm reading things into this, right? So, conceptually, I'm thinking that as a new material, this is reading pretty darn congruous with other materials found in the neighborhood. Now, all of this is evidence coming right out of my mouth as opposed to from the applicant or staff or anybody else. But this is the thought process I've been going through in evaluating it. My inclination is based on what we have in front of us to view it as congruous or not incongruous with the guidelines. My concern is in the installation, and once the shop drawings come through, just how they are collecting the power and getting it down. A single conduit on the north side is a pretty minimal connection for quite a field of electrical wires, and that would be wonderful. And just the question would then be where. That would just be one of the conditions I'd want to put on it. I'd love to hear everybody else's thoughts.
John?
I got to tell you, I think that the guidelines are written to help us in a modern world deal with a historic world in a very best way we can. And I must say that solar panel technology has improved so much over the years. For example, I have solar panels on my house. If I were not so high up in the air with a two-story house on a hill in Glenwood, Brooklyn, I don't know that my solar panels would be approved because they are so scabby on top of the roof. They are an addition, another technology piece. They're not necessarily the prettiest things you've ever seen. This is the technology that basically eliminates that mess. And I think that from a historic perspective, it has some merit. To Curtis's concern about reflectivity, from the pictures I've seen in the ones that they've submitted, it's more of a sheen than it is a mirror. And I have, and especially, I mean, this is the saving grace about this specific project, is that it is a very low slope and is not an architectural feature of this house. If this were a Tudor house or some sort of scenario where the roof was really right in your face, different story. But I think that there's a certain responsibility that the owner is taking here to try to combine the two of technology and history in a way that works with his specific project. And from that aspect, I'm okay with this.
Thanks for that, John. Sandy, do you have any comments?
No, I don't. I agree with John's comments. I welcome the new technology.
All right. And I would tend to agree as well. I think I would just offer that, there's been a number of applications that we've heard over at least the past couple of years. And like you're saying, John, we're trying to sort of negotiate between sustainability and the historic character of place. And so this is actually, to me, very exciting to see that there could be moving in the direction of a solution to that makes us responsible, in which we can be responsible in both arenas. So I agree with your comments. That said, I think that we are ready to make a motion. John, would you like to make a motion?
Let me just preface this by saying I'm going to screw this up.
Okay. All of this together.
Yeah. Excuse me, 2 seconds. Let me get, okay. Per the applicable standards and submittal, oh, excuse me, back up. I'm sorry. Back up. 2 seconds, I'm in there. Per the, I'd like to make a motion per the applicable standards and submittal requirements and this evidential hearing that we approve this application and reflect the applicable standards and submittal requirements as concerns as noted by staff 1 through 3, and that we support the conditions, and let me highlight those right now, that the associated equipment be located on the back half of the house and that the overall mounting height of any ground level equipment not be taller than 6 feet. That the equipment be screened from view of the street with screen plantings, and that the following materials and specifications be provided to and approved by staff prior to the installation, i.e. equipment screen planting specifications, including number, location, species, and mature height not greater than 42 inches. Did I do that right?
I'll second it so we can then discuss.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. Okay, and that's Brochet, Curtis, John, and Sandy. And Curtis with a follow-up.
I would like to offer a friendly amendment that we make it clear that we're approving subject to conditions, and that we add a 4th condition, that drawings and specs of any equipment or conduit going on the exterior of the house be provided to and approved by, drawings and specs showing the location, size and location of any equipment or conduit going on the exterior of the house be provided to and approved by staff prior to the issuance of the blue card, the blue placard. And that would be the only suggested change.
Second.
I have absolutely no problem with that. In fact, thank you for enhancing my motion.
We're a team.
Okay, and that is a second by Sandy and comments by John. All right, all those in favor of Curtis's amendment and this application. Okay, and that is Brochet, Curtis, John, and Sandy. So just in summary, this application COA-14-2022 has been approved with conditions. Let's see. Yeah, it has been approved with conditions. I want to thank you, Mr. Rittershaus, for working with our team and joining us today. Also for the unique spelling of the name Aaron that I have never seen before. I appreciate that. But in addition, also introducing our committee to another material solution that honestly I hope to see potentially more of throughout Raleigh as others consider making their properties more green in the future. So thank you for that, and we wish you the best of luck as you move forward, and hope all the wires get tied in together and it doesn't cause you too much heartache.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Have a good night.
I wouldn't mind seeing one of the panels once it's provided to staff. If that could be arranged, that would be really nice, just to have a tactile.
Up close and personal, yes.
I agree. Aaron and Colette, I don't know if that's something you all can arrange, but I think there's genuine interest amongst all of us to kind of see a sample of this.
Oh, well, Tanya here, only because I unmuted for something else. There's not going to be a sample. we will not, we already asked for that and the company said that it was not available. So
This is Erin. However, we can alert you when the applicant alerts us that the project is complete so that you can go see it in the field.
Okay,
And
that would be great.
I also happen to walk my dog by there pretty much twice a day. So I can alert everybody when the materials go to site so you can go out and see one where you can touch it.
I would also like to point out, just as advice to the owner, caveat emptor. You don't have a sample yet. Get one.
You'll be happier in the end, yes. Another thought, outside of the case, but something to put on our work program, a suggestion. I suspect we're going to be tweaking our guidelines to deal with the legal changes. And one of the things I think we want to do is tweak our guidelines to be a wee bit less specific about solar collectors and more general about devices put on the exterior of the house, and perhaps come up with some guidance for those coming after us and how we evaluated new material. Historic district.
we'll make a note. Staff has a version of the guidelines that we're regularly putting notes in of things that we think could be tweaked.
So do I, right here.
On the way. So, well, yeah, yep. But we're trying to keep it in one place.
Yeah.
Before I forget, and I apologize if Colette had already reminded you, but once you've closed the meeting, for Shay and Nicole need to hang on for a few minutes to do some signing of the minutes business.
Yes, I'm aware we did that last time. Okay.
Shay, I have one request from staff, or a question. I know that I am supposed to be leading, or at least working with the owner on, I think it's Cleveland Street in the Glenwood, Brooklyn district, because they had requested a demolition for their property. And that was done some months ago. I was waiting on to hear from staff or somebody that I could actually contact them to work with them. I have heard nothing. Should I still wait?
Hey, John, this is Colette. No, we previously, you were just waiting until the minutes were approved, which they were. So.
Well, I'll be honest, Colette, Tanya told me that you all would tell me when I could do it. So I was waiting for that, not the minutes. I'm sorry.
No problem. Apologies for the confusion.
By the by, I wondered by that Glenwood, Brooklyn property, just since we were visiting in the area, that is a demolition case. And I believe that's the one you're talking to them on. And I did notice that they have covered the windows. They haven't removed the accumulation of leaves or anything from the roof. But at least it's a little more stabilized, which is nice to see.
That's very encouraging to hear. My fear was that it was going to go the opposite direction. So I'm really thrilled about that. Tanya or staff, would you please send me, I don't even know this person's name, their direct contact information, because I've slept since we met. And so having a refresher course on who I'm talking to would be very helpful.
Absolutely.
Staff, a quick question for you. When a demolition case comes before you, I assume you do your best to inform them of the guidelines they're going to be operating in when they have to actually replace that structure, so they have an understanding of what is actually possible. Is that a good assumption?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
We tell them a lot of things that it doesn't necessarily appear like they've heard.
Yeah, I bet. Just because of some of the demolitions we've seen in the past, proposals we've seen in the past, it seems like once the financial aspect becomes clearer, things change. Okay. And Erin, a quick reminder if you can get your hands on that little pamphlet for me, that would be great.
Hey Curtis, this is Erin. Yes, I'll be back in the office tomorrow. I ran out of time Monday. You're on my list.
You're the best. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other business that we need to cover this evening?
Shay, I'll just say one thing, probably not necessary, but the committee members, I guess, are understanding that the findings and conclusion and final decision in the 3 cases that you've decided, 2 cases you've decided tonight, that will be included as part of your minutes approval at the next meeting. So the attorneys are going to work on that. You all don't have to suffer through all that detail, but it will be in your package at the next meeting.
And I assume it, for this very reason, it's advisable for us to hang on any notes we've taken for next month when we're running down these, so that we can just make sure any new facts that came forward are included, just in case.
Yeah, let me say this. Every set of eyes looking at the findings is appreciated, but the action has been taken. So on one level, the final decision document is perfunctory because sometimes you have the composition of the board changing. You have members who didn't carry the evidence who would be asked to vote on approval of the findings and conclusions. So there is that sort of element of the process that the hearing is over. The evidence has been received. Again, happy to have input on the details of it, but in one respect, it is sort of a formality.
And that was actually a procedural question I was going to have when we're looking at it. A record document that has the additional findings of fact when the composition of the committee changes. Do the new members just recuse on that, or do they vote on it? How is that done procedurally properly?
You know, it's a point well taken. I was in Burlington on Tuesday, and a newly composed Board of Adjustment, very few of whom had sat in on a hearing, were asked to vote to approve findings and conclusions in a case heard in December.
Wow.
And had to make the same sort of a pitch. I asked if they've read the minutes and are comfortable voting, but did have to express my thought that the hearing is over, and so approval of the findings and conclusions, it is not a reconsideration of the action.
Of course.
It's simply endorsing the findings and conclusions.
Okay.
So I think the review is it's not to rethink the case or reevaluate decisions, but simply to see if all appears to be in order based on the knowledge that you bring to that vote.
Okay.
And then vote as members of the group to approve the decision that the group made previous time.
That's good advice.
Raz, I just have one question, very facetious and comedic. Will this be in lawyer speak or in something I can actually understand?
Oh, lawyers speak all the way.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much.
Now, it will be shorter substantially. I think it's fair to say, because the staff, in preparing recommendations, observations, analysis, their evaluation of every case, I mean, you were getting to the point where you were having 5- and 6-page staff reports that were set out as findings that you'd be moving to adopt. And these findings and conclusions won't have to be so long because they're not an attempt to serve multiple purposes. It's simply
RHDC 2.0. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other business? If not, I do think, I know, Tanya, you sent out an email earlier today, but could you just remind the group about how this meeting will be conducted in April? or I'm sorry, in March. Is it March or April that we have to go back in person?
April is when we will be back in person. So March will be the last virtual meeting, and prior to any of the April meetings, I will be sending out the details about, where you should park and all of that business.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, with that, if there is no other business, I will consider this meeting adjourned. I don't think I need a motion in that. I think I can just wrap it up.
It's a wrap.
All right, well, thank you all for your time this evening. Really appreciate it. It's nice to have a shorter evening, so I hope you all enjoy your dinner. And we will see you next month.
Okay.
Right on.
Bye-bye. Take care.